Well, hi there guys, how you doing? This is Adam Wallace, and today we have a brand new series. This is a 5-part series, and as I'm sure you've already guessed, this is a tutorial basically of an idiot's guide of how to fly the very dreaded Airbus A320 developed by Aerosoft. Now, for some reason, this aircraft gets a lot of stick for being complicated, which is a concept that I've found rather hard to get my head around, you could say. Basically, I'm going to strip it down completely and utterly, and I'm going to go through the finest, most simple details of how to, basically fly this bird without crashing it. So it's going to be a 5-part series. Video 1 today, of course, is the pre-flight video. Then it will go through to the engine startup and departure, which will be in the next video. Video 3 will be the cruising video, in which I will go into details about what you could check in the cruise. For example, well, I'll get more into detail, of course, when the video comes. The 4th video in the series will be the descent and landing. Video 5 will be the series overview. Then it will be talks of the next aircraft that I'm going to cover, which will either be the PMDG 777, the PMDG J41, or the PMDG 737 NGX, and I have a couple of 757s that I could strip down and show you as well. However, that could be another video. But in the meantime, guys, let's just get right into it. So here we find ourselves in the Airbus A320 at stand 10 at Edinburgh, and we're just about to commence a flight to Malaga today. And what's going to happen now? I'm going to start up this aircraft, and basically, when you get into the flight deck, you can see it's a very organised flight deck. If I just go over to the overhead panel, it's very structured and it's laid out, if I say, pretty nicely. It's a very good looking cockpit. It seems somewhat more organised than that of the Boeings, which I would agree with. Just putting this out there, I do prefer flying the 737, however, that's obviously a different video too. But if you look into the cockpit, it's very organised and the flows are very simple. I'll go through what the flows actually are in just a second, if you don't know. But if you look, it's a very organised cockpit. There's not that much stick out knobs, if you can try and take that in the best way possible. But it's a very nice cockpit, I must say. It's a glass cockpit, of course, and that's really it. That's a look around the cockpit, guys, just so you are familiar with that. Now, I did film this video, and unfortunately I forgot to press record, so I'm just checking I've pressed record, which I have. Sorry about that. Right, anyway, so let's get right into it. So the first thing you want to do when you set into an aircraft is you want to set the parking brake. You don't want this thing to roll straight into the terminal. I don't know what it will do to the aircraft, and secondly, I think it will disturb a few passengers within the terminal area at Edinburgh today. So we want to make sure that parking brake is set so our 320 does not roll away as such. Secondly, you want to make sure that the gear is down. This does have some safety precautions, but unlike the 737-300, where if you pull the gear up when the aircraft is on the floor, the thing actually will try and retract. But we just want to make sure that that is down, just for good practice. So from then, make sure that all the lights are off just now, which they are. Then this is where we get power into the aircraft. As you can see, there is absolutely no power in the aircraft. It is completely cold and dark. All the screens are off. There are no lights apart from the ground power light, which you can find here. However, I will go into detail of what that is in just a second. So firstly, we want to hit bat 1, bat 2, and there we go. The lights illuminate. As you can see, the cockpit looks somewhat more alive. And this is where probably the first problem encounters. It'll be I have turned the battery on, and I cannot see the screens. Well, that's because unlike pretty much any aircraft, you've actually got to turn the screens on. So you do it by just rotating these knobs around about halfway. We'll do it, and there we go. That's it. But while we're here, I just want to make sure everything else is set. So not only do you need to turn on the flight displays, you need to also turn on the radios, which I will do just there. Not a problem. So now the aircraft is alive, we do have some we do have some battery power and some lights on within the aircraft. Now this comes to basically the first thing that we're going to do. So the first thing we're going to do, in the 737 it's called the electrical power up. I'm not familiar with what it's called in Airbus. Actually, I'm more familiar with flying the 737, however I still do know this aircraft very, very well. So the first thing we are going to do is put the beacon lights on and the nav light on. From then, I'm going to set the IRS lights, ADIRS lights to nav. So then from then, we can then set that to alt off, and then we're going to put the external power. And as we put the external power on, that's basically the power equivalent of having the auxiliary power unit on, which is basically a small jet engine sort of thing that's in the tail that gives the aircraft ground power, because you cannot do a lot of the things on battery power, such as align IRSs, which I just basically tried to do there. Okay, so now we have got ground power in the aircraft. If you don't know how to get ground power in the aircraft, it's very simple. You go to this MCDU over here onto the first officer side. You go to ground services, and you'll get them all here. You get traffic cones, you can read wheel chocks, and external power. So we're going to get rid of the traffic cones and the wheel chocks just now, so we don't need them. And we have the external power GPU, and that is basically what you do there. So from then, we have got the everything sorted really. So from then, I'm going to go through with the CDU pre-flight. CDU pre-flight is fairly simple to complete, so you just go to the initialization, and you basically need to tell the aircraft where it is. It's kind of like if you get into a sat-nav, if you get into a car and there is a sat-nav there, you must instruct the sat-nav where the hell you are, otherwise it has absolutely no idea. So you'll do that by hitting align IRSs. From then we should get an information within the information system here. It says IRS alignment in 4 minutes, which seems relatively normal. Okay, so now we're going to input the route. This is a thing that is dreaded. You know, this whole MCDU computer database is absolutely shit scary if you've never flown an aircraft like this before. So I'm going to go through it very slowly, and I'm going to go through it as simply as possible. It is a very simple computer despite its very intricate look, which is just kind of like a false appearance, to be honest. Anyway, so this stands for initialization, the init page, and that should be the first page you go into. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hit the ICAO codes of our destination, our origin airport, and our destination airport. So today we're departing out of Edinburgh, which has an ICAO code of Echo Golf Papa Hotel. So we're going to hit that, hit /, and to our destination airport, which is Lima Echo Mike Golf, which is Malaga. We're going to input that. Basically what we have done there is we have told the aircraft that that's where we are and that's where we want to go. And that's basically it, really. Now we get the ALTN, which stands for alternate. Basically, if something fucks up within the aircraft and we need to return, not if something fucks up rather, if the weather or whatever is not ideal at Malaga, for example, say there's a wind shear or something like that, or there's a low-lying nimbus that we don't want to fly through, we will divert to our alternate airport, which will be Granada, which is an ICAO code of Lima Echo Golf. I think it's November. No, it's not. It's Romeo. Lima Echo Golf Romeo. Sorry for that. And we basically told the aircraft that if something changes and we want to go to our alternate, it will be Granada. Rest of the initialization page. By the way, at the start, this is company route. I assume if you're watching this video, you don't really know what a company route is, and it's not something that I really need to go into detail just yet. Okay, flight number. This is very important because whatever you input here will actually, in real life, display what is on the air traffic controller's radar screen. So, for example, if I put AS or something like that, that would pop up on the radar screen AS, which would obviously not be ideal. So you want to input this as correctly as possible. We are flying on the Norwegian A320 today, so it's going to be NAX. And it will be 34 Golf Charlie as our call sign today. So we'll input that into there. Cost index is 15 today. And our flight level, so CRZ flight level is 370. So that's the first page of the initialization screen set up on the MCDU. From then we have one more page to go, so we're going to hit this arrow pointing to the right here, and the block fuel. This is what used to catch me. I never really knew what block fuel was until I learned about fuel planning. But your block fuel is basically how much fuel you're carrying on your chip today. So we have 10.8. So I'm going to input 10.8. Obviously that's 10.8 tons of fuel, not 10.8 kilograms. Oh, by the way, all weight is in kilograms. So if you're trying to put that into pounds, you'll get something like 2200 or something like that. But make sure that that is in kilograms and it's all matched up accordingly, because you don't want to run out of fuel during the middle of the flight, because that would not be ideal either. So that is initialization page completed. It's gave us our zero fuel weight and our center of gravity. So we can see that our zero fuel weight is 57.6 tons and our gravity is 25. So there we go. From them, hit flight plan. And this is where shit gets real, guys. This is where a lot of people tend to freak out and have no idea what to do. But it's very simple. You can get routes off of various websites such as SimBrief. I'll put them in the link in the description, and I'm also going to put the link in the description to the route that I flew on this flight today. I think it will be a lot easier if you actually replicate this flight. I should have mentioned that at the beginning. I'm going to put that as an annotation on the screen at the start of the video, but please make sure that you replicate this flight in order to get the best experience from this video as possible. So here we go. As we can see, Echo Golf Papa Hotel is our origin. Our first waypoint today will be DCS, which stands for Dean's Cross, and that's basically just a waypoint pretty much. So it's actually a VOR that we're going to be flying towards. So yeah, a VOR is an omnidirectional beacon. However, I'm not going to go into any more detail than that. You don't really need to know, to be honest, for this video. So from DCS we need to go to an airway called Uniform November 864. So now what you would do, what you would think anyway, is you would take Uniform November 864 and you'd be like, your waypoint, what does this mean? That's because that's not how it works in this aircraft, guys. It's not like the 737 or pretty much any other flight management computer. You've got to hit Dean's Cross, so I'll show that again. So you hit the LSK next to Dean's Cross and you go into Airways. This will say Airways from DCS, which was our initial VOR out of our departure of Edinburgh. So now you'll hit Uniform November 864. Uniform November 864. Hit that, and that should pause, then it should insert itself into there. So from Uniform November 864 we go to a waypoint called SUBUK. Now if you're wondering what these waypoints actually are, they're just kind of like, I like to think of them as little air corridors, little motorways or highways in the sky. And it's basically just to avoid aircrafts potentially colliding in the sky, which would not be good. And it seems a little bit ironic that to prevent collisions you actually put aircraft on the same fucking bit in the sky. However, it makes sense if you really do look into it. It just provides a bit of organisation essentially. From SUBUK, we don't have an airway, we're going direct to NOKIN, which is another waypoint. So you input that in here, and input that, then there we go. Airways from NOKIN, Uniform November 862. Now the reason I'm telling you to follow this route is not only because I know there is not unrecognised waypoints, it's the fact that it's just going to make this whole video a lot more coordinated, because if you're trying to input your own route and it says something like unrecognised waypoint or something like that, I'm not going to be able to help you. Uniform November 862, then we go to the BHD VOR, and put that in there. Then from BHD, Uniform November 862 again, and that will get us to our final waypoint. Just input that there, and that will be VULPE, which is our final waypoint into our arrival at Malaga. And then we'll go through what to do now. And it says not allowed, and do you know why that is? It's because the there's a mismatch between the airway and the point. So what we do here is we'll hit clear in the bottom right, clear that, and we're not allowed to do that, so that's actually not ideal. From then, what we can do, you hit the up arrow to go down, which is a little bit weird to get your head around, but we're just going to hit VULPE again in the this page instead, and there we go, that's it. So from then we have inputted our route that we have been given by the flight management, or the brief website that we used, you know, whether that's SimBrief or PFPX or something like that. So we now inputted that route, but that's not the route done. What we need to do now is actually input our SID and stars. So first of all, you want to check the weather, and I'm going to check the weather here at Edinburgh. So we can see the winds are at 060 at 16 knots, QNH 1015, no precipitation reported, temperature 15 degrees Celsius. So that's all good. So I'm just going to set the QNH up here. Obviously if you're in America it will be in inches of mercury instead of hectopascals like it is just now. But as we can see that the wind are coming from 060, that will obviously favour runway 06 for our departure, and that will give us a display of potential standard instrument departures. Standard instrument departure, if you don't know, is kind of like a route out of the airport. It's organised. It's just about organisation, to be honest. But here we are, we find them here. So we've got the DCS3 Delta, the Grice 4 Delta. I'm sure you can read the screen here. Obviously the Dean's Cross 3 Delta favours R1 because that's our first VOR. So there we go, we click that. There is no transition from the Dean's Cross 3 Delta departure. Hit insert, and that is our route inserted. So from then, hit destination, arrival. I'm now going to check the arrival information at Malga. We have winds at 110 at 4 knots. Don't need to check anything else because it'll probably change by the time we get there. So again, hit the down arrow. It will be ILS 13, and it scroll up to go down, which is really weird, but you will get used to it. And there we go, the VULPE 1 kilo, and that'll be our arrival. Input that, and that is our SIDS and stars done, and that's pretty much most of the FMC done. We've only got a couple more things to go, which will be the performance page. But I'm just going to go through something very quickly. If you go to the what's called the EFIS, and if you click this onto the plan mode, you can see the route. That alters your range, this knob, so you can check how far away you want the zoom to be. So I'm going to put it very close just now, just so I can see. So we go into plan, and if you look at this, if you look at the navigation display, you can actually check. Now this route is not also to check, this method is not also just to check that the route makes sense and that there's no obvious errors within it. It also checks if there's something called a route discontinuity. I can't say that word, but you know what I'm trying to say. Basically, these can be really bad because they're quite hard to spot. There's no visual or oral warning that you encounter one. Like there's one just there. And basically it will result in the aircraft going off of selected mode. Not selected, it will result in the aircraft basically abandoning its flight path in the management computer, because it basically doesn't know where to go next because there's a huge chunk missing. It'd be like if you were following a road on a car. No, I've got a better example. It's like if you're on a Scalextric's, that Scalextric racetrack thing. It would be like if a piece of the track was missing. The car would just sort of obviously not follow the track. It would lose where it was. It would just go off the track due to the missing piece. That's kind of what like a route disco is like. So what you do is you hit clear bottom right, and you cancel away by hitting the line select key that's next to the route discontinuity. So from then that will get rid of it. Now we just check the route, and it looks absolutely lovely. So from then we've checked the route, and now I'm going to go into the performance page. So performance, as you can see, we don't have any V-speeds or anything like that. We've got nothing inputted in this. So from then it's going to be a flap 1, and it's gave us our 47 degrees flex to temp. So now we've got our V1 speeds, rotate and V2. So I'm going to go through what these actually mean, then our flap retraction speed also. Okay, so from then, V1 is the point of no return. After V1 you cannot abandon the takeoff. That's basically all that means. There's no option for takeoff rejection after the V1 speed, which today is 143 knots. Rotate, you can kind of guess at 144 knots. We will rotate the aircraft towards 10 degrees and accelerate out of Edinburgh. V2, that's the point on which we would need to be if we were to lose an engine or something like that. That's the kind of speed that we would need to be above or at for a safe departure. Flap retraction speeds, we'll hope to retract the flaps around 151 knots, and we want to have the flaps retracted by a maximum of 2 times. So that's basically just what that means. So from then we don't need to do anything else. We have completely set up the MCDU. So from then we've not actually began the pre-flight. So I'm going to go through what that is now. In a 737 you start up and you go down. However, that's not the case in the Airbus. You start down and go up. So we're going to arm the emergency exit lights. You can see that the light goes off here. Turn seatbelt signs on. The lights are set fine just now. Everything looks normal. I'm going to go through what the dark concept cockpit is in just a second, because this is what an Airbus kind of goes by. Set the fuel pumps on. But when you see that that's on, it's actually set to auto. Everything is pretty much automated within the flight deck of this this aircraft. Okay, so from then, there's one thing that we can do, and let's just check everything here. And you can set the V2 speed of 146 into the MCP. Set that in there. Then we'll set runway heading, which is 060. Actually 063. Set to 6,000. Okay, now I need to go through the MCP and the autopilot, because this is something that a lot of people have a lot of troubles with when it comes to flying this Airbus. Okay, so from then, if you look, you get 2 modes. So you either get this line mode, as you can see here, and that's basically when it's managed by the autopilot. So that means that the data that you've inputted within the flight plan section in your MCDU, the autopilot will follow it, assuming that you have the autopilot engaged and these this selected mode right here, managed mode. Sorry, selected is this mode. So selected would be like a normal autopilot mode. So for example, if you were flying and had the autopilot on, if you wanted to go to a heading of 170, you would set 170 and you would make sure it was in the selected mode, and the aircraft would then turn towards 170. If you wanted to turn towards 170 but had this on, it wouldn't do it, because that's following the data within the MCDU. If that makes any sense, that is great. So just bear in mind that what you want to genuinely see is when you're when you're flying the Airbus is a sort of line mode here, because that means that it's basically going off of data from the MCDU. So that would be kind of like your LNAV and VNAV sort of type thing, but the Airbus version. If you know what LNAV and VNAV is, that's great. If you don't, it's basically just when the aircraft follows data inputted into this system here, which we've already inputted, which you'd be happy to hear. Okay, so from then, we're going to set that. So we want to set that to 143 for now. Then runway heading was 060. And that's fine just now. Set auto brake to max. Max is the equivalent to RTO, or rejected takeoff mode. So that basically means if you're accelerating down the runway and you cut the throttles to idle, auto brake system will kick in. That will basically put the aircraft to a halt. Okay, from then you can check all the ECAS systems, check the engine, check that indications are normal, which they do seem to be perfectly normal. Check the door page. You can actually close the door now. You can see the cabin doors closed, and from now we're going to start the APU. Starting the APU, you put the APU bleed on.
Captain, the cabin is secure. All passengers
and master APU on and start. Now the APU in the Airbus has a very quick start time up compared to the other aircraft, and basically what that means that when we start the APU, it means that we are not going to need ground power anymore, and because we have engine bleed on, we can actually then start the engines, which is obviously great news. So from now I'm going to go through this. So we're going to set an imaginary transponder code 3250. That's absolutely fine. Just now we're going to check that the speed brake is up, flaps are up, throttles are at idle, and the rudder trim's at 0. From then we're just going to exercise the throttles. And do you hear those clicks? That's something that's very selected, or not, very unique rather, to the Airbus. I don't think it's in any other aircraft, I might be wrong. But here we go. If you look into the throttles, you get 0, which obviously means idle. You get reverse thrust, which you can see there. So you get the reverse thrust mode. Then you get this climb detent, which you'll hear that click now. So that's basically the mode that you want the aircraft in once you've already departed. So now you get the manual, takeoff, flex, then toga. So you'd put the into toga, for example, if you're doing a go around or something like that. So that's basically what that all means. I'll go through it on the in the next video when it's more important. However, that's really all that done. I'm going to do a quick scan of the overhead just to check that everything looks okay, which it does so far. I'll disconnect the ground power, and we can go to the MCDU here, and we can get rid of that ground power. And there we go. So from then, we've pretty much done everything. Now you do get Airbus checklists. I'm still debating whether or not in my head to actually go ahead with them, because you're going to have different checklists from me, and I really don't want to confuse you. Just give me a second, guys. So I'll just go through the British Airways style checklist. So before start, we've done the cockpit preparation. That's what we've pretty much just all done there. Gears, pins and covers removed. Signs. That refers to seatbelt signs. We can see they're on. ADIRS is set to nav. Fuel quantity. We have should be 10,800. Yep. Takeoff data is set. Bar reference is set 1015 both sides. Doors and windows, they are closed and locked. Beacon light. Beacons on. Thrust levers idle and park and brake is on for now. So now we're going to go with the startup checklist. That's not, we don't need I just fucked that up. We don't need to do a startup checklist. We've done it before start. The aircraft is completely ready to start. However, that will be in the next video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed this idiot's guide for the pre-flight. If you found it helpful, that is fantastic. If you didn't, I'm sorry. Can you please leave a comment on what I can do better next time? But in the meantime, from myself, Adam Wallace, I hope you had a fantastic experience watching this video. And share it with your friends or whatever. Leave it a like, leave a rating, subscribe if you want more. And I thank you for listening, guys. Enjoy your day.